Hi, welcome back to The Whole Truth. In this video, I'm going to give Israel some really good PR advice that I hope they take to heart, because we all can see how bad Israeli PR is. They're losing the narrative on every front, and my advice is very simple, and it's going to be very effective. And what that is to just completely, no matter really what arguments are being made against Israel, completely pump out the point about Mizrahi and Sephardic Jews. They make up half of Israel's Jewish population, which is Israel's population is about 80% Jewish, 20% Palestinian Arab. So of the Jewish population, about half are Jews that descend directly from people that were kicked out of Middle Eastern countries, okay? Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, Syria, Yemen, Iran, Iraq, Lebanon. And the reason that this argument will be so effective is manifold. But one of the main things that you hear mostly from the left is that Israel is a European colonial enterprise. And if half of its Jewish population were refugees from the Middle East or descend from refugees from the Middle East, that completely undercuts that argument. It also goes to show that Jews must not have been living so great in Islamic countries prior to the State of Israel if they were so easily kicked out. They were dhimmis. They lived second-class citizen status. They had to pay jizya taxes. And so they were either forcibly expelled and all their property appropriated, or they voluntarily left because they wanted not to be second-class citizens, and Israel was the obvious place to go. But a lot of people in the West don't know this about Israel because their only interactions with Jews are with the European Ashkenazi Jews, for the most part, because out of the half of the Jewish population that does not live in Israel, so the world's Jewish population, half is in Israel, give or take, and half is basically most of the rest of the half is in America, with maybe 5% scattered around some other countries. But of these Jews, in particular the prominent Jews, the ones that are in media or in academia and other institutions, these are all the Ashkenazi Jews. And so everybody has this view of Jews as all being European Ashkenazi Jews. And that is not the case for Israel. It goes about half and half, and there's so much intermarriage between the two that it's pretty much not becoming less and less of a distinction. So I think that Israel should just pump out this fact. And not to mention that the story of the Jews that were kicked out of Muslim countries basically parallels Palestinians. In fact, it was much worse for the Jews than it was for the Palestinians that were kicked out, because the Palestinians moved essentially a few miles east or south and still live amongst their people, still have the same culture and everything. But the Jews had lost everything they had, and they had to move a lot further. And they're Zionists, so they still live amongst their people, but it's a good parallel to make, and yet nobody talks about them. You hear about the 1948 Nakba every day, and you never hear about the Mizrahi Jews. So Israel, no matter what the argument is, just keep bringing this point up. It is effective. I'm telling you, people in the West hate whites, okay? I'm not saying I agree with it. In fact, I personally don't think that this should be the most effective argument, but it will be.